South Australia's largest iron ore trains were tasked to handle around 3 million tonnes of ore in 2025, with 7 weekly return trains moving product 630 kilometres from Wirrida in South Australia's north to the coastal town of Whyalla, where it is exported. Aurizon, one of Australia's largest bulk rail operators, is in charge of the service, with its GWB and GWU bulk central division locomotives tasked to haul the trains. All 6 GWBs and all 4 GWUs under Aurizon's ownership worked these trains in 2025 and are all seen across this production. A method known as distributed power is used, where locomotives are spread throughout the consist instead of all pulling from the front. This helps with the overall draw gear forces, along with providing more control over the train, which can weigh over 11,000 tonnes. In the case of these ore trains, Aurizon positions its locomotives at the front and rear of the services, which also helps with the route as a change of ends is required at Spencer Junction. For the majority of the route, 2 locomotives are on the front with 1 on the rear, but on some occasions, a second locomotive is also used on the rear. In this scene, that is very much the case, with a fully loaded ore train working upgrade on the Trans-Australian Railway at Pimba Bank, one of the steepest grades for the service, with GWBs 102 and 106 on the lead and GWB 104 on the rear, joined by GWA 001, which was added at Wirrida after being borrowed from a passing intermodal service. The GWB is a second generation GT46C ACE locomotive built in the United States by Progress Rail. The design is much like the GWA, which is a first generation type built locally with some minor differences. 3 GWBs arrived into Australia in 2018, followed by another 3 in 2023, with this iron ore traffic their main duty, with some intermodal and grain haulage also carried out. They're the most powerful locomotives on the interstate mainline in Australia, hosting an output of 4,500 horsepower. These services run at a maximum speed of 80 kilometres per hour when loaded, but in reality the terrain out here slows them down, with another shot of the loaded service further down the line near Macleay well and truly achievable. The GWB is more commonly utilised on these iron ore services, but the GWU still makes often appearances in the lash-up. The GWUs are the C44 ACI type, which has quickly become Australia's most common locomotive, with over 200 built with 9 operators using them currently. The type is built locally by UGL Rail at Broadmeadow. Aurizon only has 4 GWUs, which were transferred from One Rail Australia during the sale, as were the GWAs and GWBs. Approaching Spencer Junction, GWB 102 and GWB 101 lead an empty ore service, with GWU 013 and GWB 104 positioned on the rear. Due to no direct link between the Whyalla line and the Trans-Australian Railway, the rear locomotives will take the lead on departure towards Wirrida, which is why the crew van and fuel are marshalled at that end of the train. These trains operate through some of the harshest, most isolated regions in the country, using the Trans-Australian Railway and the Darwin line, 2 of Australia's most remote main lines. At Tent Hill, GWB 105 leads, with GWU 013 joining it on the front. GWBs 102 and 104 are on the rear, not required for the empty run, but will be used on the return loaded train. Descending the grade near Heesso, loaded service 9614S is set for the main line at the loop, to cross a ballast train also operated by Aurizon. This time, instead of the GWBs ruling the train, it's the GWUs that make up most of the lash-up, with GWU 015 leading GWB 101 and GWU 014 trailing on the rear. Across at Pimba sees SCT freight service 5PM9 held on the loop, with an empty ore service approaching from the south. These ore trains normally operate on the lowest priority path, routinely being looped for the higher priority intermodal traffic. But on this occasion, 6911S is given the main line to head straight through.